Right, that is what happens when you leave a dreadnought out in the rain. They shrink. Do I do my own intros? Well, okay, whatever. In case you're interested, Kiddy's Guitar, it will be for sale on Saturday at the Church Bazaar. Yeah, it will be a comical thing for a 3-year-old. Yeah, right. Good afternoon. I've been challenged to answer seven questions. I've answered 6 of them, and I left the difficult one to last. Difficult to keep in 3 minutes or so. The question is, why do I YouTube? Why do I put films on YouTube? Why do I watch YouTube? Watching is easy. There are a great many YouTubers who put good stuff on YouTube. There are people who show you how to do chord patterns on particular tunes and particular instruments. There are people who show you how to repair banjos. There are people who show you how to change winter tyres for summer tyres, and lots more besides. Watching YouTube doesn't take a great deal of explanation. But the question why, it's actually a very, very deep question. Why does anybody do anything? Why did the chicken cross the road? Why does Ethiopia suffer with drought? Why is always a deep and difficult question. It goes back, I should really be on the psychiatrist's couch for this. When did you first discover? Yeah. It goes back to childhood, and it goes back not to my childhood, but my father's childhood. My father had an interesting war. He was too young to go off and fight Hitler. He instead was a Boy Scout, and he was evacuated from where they lived in London. And he actually thoroughly enjoyed the war. That may sound terrible, but it got him out in the open air, it got him working on farms and learning how to hold horses' heads and all manner of things that as a boy from where he was born he would not have been doing. But he started to draw pictures of things, and somewhere, and don't ask me where, I've got sketches that he made of the places that he found himself. And then he got a camera. He got a Kodak 620 Junior camera that you flipped it down, it had bellows on it, and you put a roll of film in the back, and he took pictures of interesting things. But of course, with that type of camera you could only take 12 images, and then you took the film out and you sent the film to a developer and it came back with contact prints of beautiful places in black and white, and if you got the exposure right you could have a memory of where you've been. Now, by the time that I was born, Dad had moved on, and he was using a Kodak, and it really was called a Brownie, although it wasn't a box Brownie that we think of. The Kodak Brownie 8mm cine camera. And you took the cover off and you put the film in it on rolls, and you loaded it and then you wound up a clockwork mechanism, and then you could take film. And we would take this camera wherever we went, and Dad would take quick shots of things, and they were very, very quick, short shots, because the film, you got 4 minutes aside, and you sent the film away, and it came back several weeks later, developed, and then you had the projector. You could watch the film. Now, one of the things that I have as a memory from childhood was we would get films back from the developers, and we would invite neighbours in to watch them. And you might think, oh, how boring, going into someone else's house in their living room and watching 4 to 8 minutes of very short clips of little bits of film. If you look on my YouTube channel, you will find that there's some of my father's work. If you look at Hastings 1962 or Guernsey 1966, that's my father's work. He shot those films on a Kodak 8mm camera. I transferred them to digital by the crude method of putting a projector and putting a camera next to it and filming, videoing with the camera, the film that was being projected. And the other thing that many of us have forgotten is that in 1960, 62, 64, the films that were on at the cinema were pretty awful. And on Facebook I've been sharing some 1960s film, 1950s film with friends, including Bruce, and we agree that those films were dire, terrible films, and people used to pay money to go and watch them. So I guess our neighbours thought it was a great treat to come into our house and watch my dad's quick glimpses of the funfair at Hastings, or trawlers going out catching fish, or things like that. So it was something that has always been part of my life. I go somewhere, I see something that I'm interested in, I point a camera at it. I have this assumption that if I was interested, then my neighbours will be interested. And in those days my mother used to complain about it, because the neighbours would come in and we'd all sit in the living room and Dad would set the projector up, and it was hardly worth the effort just for the latest film, so we'd have a look at some of the older stuff as well. And the neighbours, I'm trying to remember their names. There was Sid from next door, there was Vic from up the road. Sid was married to a lady called Yvonne. Yvonne! A delightful lady. They had 2 boys. One was the same age as me, one was a little bit younger. And Vic up the end, don't ask me Vic's wife's name. They would come down, and of course in those days everybody smoked. So the following morning the living room would reek of stale cigarette smoke. And we would watch these films, and that's what I grew up with. Now, it's virtually impossible now to shoot 8mm film and send it off and get it developed, but for a lot of years now I've used video cameras, and I've shot an awful lot of footage, or a lot of awful footage. Oh, I do that joke too often, don't I? An awful lot of footage of many events that I've seen. Some of them have been events in my life, some of them have been things that I have felt I wanted to show somebody else. And I started loading it on YouTube. Now, from there, YouTube becomes a bit peculiar because you start getting messages from people you've never met, people you probably never will meet. You know, I'd love to meet Ken in Wenatchee, I'd love to go out there, but realistically, it's a long, long way away. You know, wouldn't it be great to go to Arkansas and Arkansas? Anyway, wherever it is that Cutworm lives, wouldn't it be great to turn up on his front door with an old Volkswagen piston and say, "Hiya, Cut"? Wouldn't that be lovely? But it's not realistic in my life. But we talk, and we talk by the other methods available to us. We email one another, one of two of us. We write real letters. I sit at my typewriter. I'm afraid my handwriting is now abysmal, so I type. And, you know, we do those things, and we become closer as people, as friends. We share joys, we share disappointments, we share tragedies, and it was a great pleasure to me this year to go and share food and ice cream with Bruce in Germany. Absolutely wonderful pleasure. Why do I do it? Because I enjoy doing it. That's the base answer. I enjoy YouTubing. I enjoy the comments. I smile at some of the dislikes on some of my videos because I look at them and I think, well, I couldn't have been bothered to watch that. Why did you? I enjoy the process of YouTube and what it brings to me, and perhaps what I give to them. Now, the last bit of the video is to nominate somebody else to answer those 7 questions. Now, I've got someone in mind, and while I was just boiling the kettle, I thought, I'm going to nominate X. And then I thought, do you know, I think they've already done it. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to finish gabbing. I'm going to load this video. Then I'm going to check on YouTube to make sure who it is, that whether they have or whether they haven't. And I will make a part 3 in which I will nominate one of you to polish your lens, put your tripod up and tell us your 7 answers. I might even ask 8 questions. Right, go on, go and cook dinner or polish copper pots or something. I'll be with you soon.